You're listening to a production of the National Media Archive. To learn more or volunteer, go to nationalmediaarchive.com.
Imagine standing in a town where every street corner holds both a secret and a story of place that shaped the course of global history, and now, bizarrely, might be overrun by tourists snapping selfies. That's Los Alamos, New Mexico, birthplace of the atomic bomb, epicenter of American scientific ambition, and, for the next few months, a pop culture pilgrimage thanks to blockbuster cinema. But let's cut through the hype. This isn't just about film premieres or Hollywood. Los Alamos is a paradox equal parts cutting-edge laboratory and everyday American suburb, nestled above 2,000 radioactive waste sites, yet boasting the highest concentration of millionaires in the United States. You might be wondering, how did a secret government lab become a place where people hike, shop at Walmart, and raise their families? Well, stick with me, because Los Alamos is as much about the future as it is about the past. Today, I'll take you through the history, science, and social contradictions of Los Alamos, explaining how a town built for war became a living monument to the power and peril of human innovation. Are you ready to explore a town where every backyard has a story and every canyon might hide the remnants of world-changing events? Let's dig in. Let's rewind to the 1940s. The United States is deep in World War II, desperate for an edge. Enter the Manhattan Projecta top-secret initiative aimed at building an atomic bomb before Nazi Germany. The stakes? Nothing less than the fate of the world. To keep its work hidden, the government created entire towns from scratch, exercising eminent domain. That's when the state can take over private land for public use. But Los Alamos was different. Much of its land already belonged to the federal government, except for a boys' ranch school and a few farms atop a remote mesa. Why here? Isolation was key. The mesa's geography, flat tops separated by steep canyons, meant access could be tightly controlled. Picture a fortress surrounded by natural moats. Now, you might ask, did families know what was happening? For most, the answer was no. Many workers across the Manhattan Project were kept in the dark about their true mission. But in Los Alamos, the core scientists knew they were racing to split the atom and build the world's first nuclear weapon. This is where secrecy met science, and where the world's most dangerous experiment was about to unfold. What's it like to live in a town where nearly everyone's a scientist? In Los Alamos, the laboratory isn't just the biggest employer, it's the reason the town exists. Schools, homes, even the supermarket aisles are filled with people discussing quantum mechanics and neutron flux, often over their morning coffee. By 1943, Los Alamos had grown to 500 residents, with infrastructure hastily built to accommodate a growing workforce. But Oppenheimer reasons that Oppenheimer underestimated just how many minds he'd need. By 1946, after the war, 10 people called Los Alamos home. You might wonder, what about today? The population hovers around 13, but the core dynamic hasn't changed. The lab is still the heart of the town, drawing top-tier scientists from around the world. And here's a mind-blowing fact. Los Alamos has the lowest poverty rate in New Mexico and more millionaires per capita than anywhere else in the country. It's a bubble built on nuclear physics and government funding. Ever felt like the dumbest person in the room? Try being surrounded by Nobel laureates and quantum theorists every time you grab groceries. That's daily life in Los Alamos. Let's break down the science that made Los Alamos famous. In 1938, scientists discovered nuclear fission, the process of splitting the nucleus of an atom to release vast amounts of energy. Think of it like cracking open a walnut and unleashing a hurricane inside. Fission became the backbone of the first atomic bombs, but soon after, research turned to nuclear fusion where atoms combine, releasing even more energy. Fusion is what powers the sun, and the hydrogen bomb developed during the Cold War was magnitudes more powerful than those dropped on Japan. You might ask, why did the US government sink so many resources into this? The answer, fear that Nazi Germany would get there first. It was an arms race, and Los Alamos was ground zero. Terms like critical mass and chain reaction entered the everyday vocabulary of the town. Imagine children learning about neutron reflectors in school the way most kids learn about photosynthesis. This scientific revolution didn't just change warfare, altered the trajectory of human civilization. July 16, 1945 Trinity Site, New Mexico. The world's first atomic bomb test. The explosion was so powerful, it turned sand into glass. The term for this is trinitite, a radioactive green mineral still found on site. Just weeks later, bombs codenamed Little Boy and Fat Man were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, killing over 100 people instantly and leaving tens of thousands more injured or doomed. President Truman called it a rain of ruin from the air. Now, you might be thinking, was this necessary? That question has haunted historians for decades. Some argue it ended World War II swiftly. Others say it marked the dawn of an age of existential risk. Visiting Los Alamos today, you're just a couple hours' drive from Trinity. Though access is tightly restricted, civilians can visit only twice a year. The legacy of that single test echoes across generations. It's a stark reminder. The innovations born here had the power to both destroy and define the modern world. Let me tell you a story that chills even seasoned scientists. After World War II, Los Alamos scientists experimented with a plutonium sphere ominously nicknamed the Demon Core. The goal? Understand exactly when a chain reaction would start, a concept called criticality. But disaster struck. Twice, a screwdriver slipped during hands-on experiments, causing accidental criticality events. Fatal doses of neutron radiation killed 2 scientists within days. Others developed cancer years later. You might ask, how could such a high-tech lab rely on something as simple as a screwdriver? It's a case of human error colliding with the invisible menace of ionizing radiation energy that can silently damage living cells and DNA. These accidents weren't just tragic, they were wake-up calls. Los Alamos gained a reputation for risk, and lab protocols changed forever. Terms like radiation poisoning and neutron flux became household warnings. It's a sobering legacy. At the frontier of science, even a moment's lapse can lead to catastrophe. Here's a question for you. What happens to the leftovers from decades of nuclear research? At Los Alamos, the answer lies beneath your feet over 2. 0 burial sites filled with radioactive waste, from contaminated gloves to plutonium scraps. These are stored in 55-gallon steel drums, buried deep in canyons like Bayo Canyon, with reinforced fire breaks and foam sprayers standing by to prevent wildfire disasters, a real risk in the arid Southwest. Now, if you're picturing a glowing green ooze, think again. Most waste is sealed and monitored, but the danger is insidious. Radiation exposure is measured in millisieverts, and cancer risk only rises significantly past 100 millisieverts. Recent studies haven't found definitive cancer hotspots in Los Alamos, but elevated rates persist compared to the rest of New Mexico. In periodic safety lapse sun-trained workers, contaminated clothing have led to million-dollar fines for the lab's private contractors. It's a delicate balance, cutting-edge science on the surface, legacy hazards just below. What's daily life like in the world's most radioactive suburb? Well, for starters, Los Alamos boasts virtually no poverty and reportedly not a single homeless person. The median income towers over surrounding communities, and more than 1 in 10 residents is a millionaire. But beneath this prosperity is a unique kind of anxiety. Nearly everyone works for the lab, directly or indirectly. The town's fate is tied to federal funding and the future of nuclear research. You might imagine dinner parties at which guests debate neutron reflectors and isotopic decay instead of sports scores. And with such a concentration of scientists, imposter syndrome is practically a local tradition. It's also a town of paradoxes. World-class hiking trails wind through canyons laced with radioactive history, while children play within sight of the facility where the atomic age was born. In Los Alamos, the extraordinary is woven seamlessly into the fabric of daily life, both a blessing and a burden. Radiation. It's an invisible, odorless force measured in micro and millisieverts that stirs both fascination and fear. In Los Alamos, monitoring radiation isn't just for scientists. Residents use Geiger counters on hiking trips, checking for hotspots near old burial sites. So how dangerous is it? Natural background radiation is about 0.1 microsieverts per hour, but near certain canyon sites, it can spike to 0.4. Still, that's far below levels known to cause harm. For comparison, a single CT scan can expose you to several millisieverts at once. But the risks aren't zero. Wildfires could potentially breach waste storage, sending radioactive particles into the air. That's why the lab invests heavily in containment using asphalt, rock barriers, and emergency foam systems. A 2023 study couldn't conclusively link local cancer rates to lab operations, but the shadow of uncertainty remains. Residents walk a fine line between trust in science and vigilance against its byproducts. It's a reminder. Technological progress often comes with invisible costs, and in Los Alamos, those costs never fully disappear. Let's step back and look at the global impact. Visiting Hiroshima, I was struck by how a city once reduced to ashes now thrives, with only a preserved dome and a hauntingly honest museum as reminders. Their narrative? Not one of blame, but of shared responsibility and a commitment to peace. You might ask, how do those who built the bomb feel about their legacy? Some, like Oppenheimer, saw their work as inevitably a race against time to beat the Nazis. Others have spent their lives grappling with the moral weight of unleashing nuclear weapons. Here's where terms like mutually assured destruction and nuclear deterrence enter the conversation. These are doctrines that have defined international relations for decades, all rooted in the innovations that began at Los Alamos. Personally, as someone from Costa Rica, a country that abolished its military entirely, the concept of war and nuclear arms is deeply foreign. Yet, the lessons of Los Alamos are universal. Science can both protect and endanger humanity. In the end, Los Alamos is more than a town. It's a cautionary tale, a monument to ingenuity, and a crossroads where history, ethics, and the future of our species intersect.